Hi everyone, I'm Georgie Getley, the Program Administrator at CU Boulder Ombuds Office. Thanks everyone for joining our Small Bite, Big Impact Lunch and Learn program. The purpose of these 30-minute programs is to provide a bite-sized amount of information. And before we get started, I'm going to go over some logistics for today's session. So you might have noticed that you are muted and that your video is turned off to reduce distractions. We are recording this session to reach as many people as possible, including those who are unable to attend today. The recording will be available on our website within the next day or two. We'll be using the chat today so please chat us any questions during the presentation. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and open the chat box now. Please note that your name does appear when you use the chat function. I'll be responding to any logistical questions during the presentation. We'll park substantive questions until the Q&A period at the end. We will also stop recording then, and we'll allow you to take yourselves off mute if you'd like to ask a question. We will be sharing slides during the presentation to help you to follow along, but you can also toggle your view so that you can focus on who's speaking and pin speakers if that's your preference. And then in the next few days, we'll follow up with an email with resources shared in today's presentation, as well as the slides. We'd love to hear your feedback after the session. So we'll be sharing a link with a feedback survey in the chat, and we'll also include this in the follow-up email. So I'm thrilled to introduce today's presenters, Liz Hill and Jerry Hauser. Liz Hill is the Associate Director for the University of Colorado Ombuds Office and has served as an ombuds for 15 years. She is an attorney, mediator, and certified organizational ombudsman practitioner. Before coming an ombuds, Liz served as the Assistant Attorney General practicing state and local taxation. Liz is an active volunteer and serves in a variety of professional leadership roles, including Vice Chair of the ABA section of dispute resolution. Jerry Hauser has served CU Boulder faculty in several capacities. He was the chair of the Boulder Faculty Assembly for 2 terms and was the chair of the communication department also for two terms, and has served as a faculty mentor for the Faculty Teaching Excellence Program. Jerry is a trained mediator and a member of the International Ombudsman Association and Consortium on Abrasive Conduct in Higher Education. Jerry has served as a faculty ombuds for 10 years. We reviewed the questions and the topics submitted during registration. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Most of them fell into about 3 buckets. So an overview of the Ombuds Office, processes around how we do our work, and the services that we provide. So that's how we've organized today's discussion. And we're going to leave a few minutes at the end for an additional question and answer. And we can always schedule a part 2 if that is needed. So we're going to start off just now with 2 questions for Liz. So firstly, can you share what the Ombuds mission and role is on campus? And secondly, what are the top issues that the Ombuds Office assists with?
Yeah, thanks, Georgie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks for the nice introduction, and thanks everyone for being here. It's great to see so many names. Before I answer those 2 questions, I just want to give a shout out to our office for that. We just reached about a year or so ago, reached our 50th year milestone. So for those who may not know, our office was established back in 1972. So that's pretty awesome. One of the longer standing university ombuds programs. But to answer your question, Georgie, I'll start with our charter, because that is what establishes what our mission is. And I'm just going to read one of the sentences from the charter and then kind of, summarize a bit. But per our charter, our mission is to help foster an environment of respect, honesty, fairness, and integrity to bolster a supportive working and learning climate at the University of Colorado Boulder for all of our faculty, staff, and students. So that, in a nutshell, if I had to give one sentence, summarizes what our mission statement is. And of course, at our discretion, we also do work. This might be helpful for folks here in the chat, or I mean in the meeting, such as parents, former students, community members. So it's not so much the who as it is the what. So long as someone's coming with a university-related issue, we're happy to have a call, talk to them, and help them find the resources and information they need to resolve whatever it is. So our role, kind of part two of this, is our role. What is our role? Is to serve as an impartial and confidential resource, helping employees, faculty, students, any other constituents navigate conflicts, navigate maybe ethical concerns they're having, or really address any university-related issues. So we provide a safe space for individuals to discuss problems without judgment, to explore the options for addressing any of the issues they're presenting, and then to strategize pathways for how they might seek resolution. So our aim is, to enhance communication, to address systemic concerns, and really overall to contribute to a healthier organizational culture. One of our colleagues, Jessica Kucha-Miller at Duke University, she does a great job compartmentalizing kind of what organizational ombuds do. And she says, we facilitate, we navigate, we illuminate, and we educate. So I think that's a nice summary. And Jerry, hold tight, because Jerry's going to go into all the different services in much more detail in just a few minutes. But I'll also, let me just two things real quick, and then we can move on. But I think it's important to note our standards of practice. So how do we go about doing our work? So we adhere to 4 standards of practice that have been established by the International Ombuds Association, and they are that we're independent, we're confidential, we're impartial, and we're informal. So what does all that mean? Well, we're independent in the sense that we are not directly aligned with any other units here on campus, and we operate outside of that typical chain of command. We're also not considered an agent of the university, so I think that's an important thing to note. The confidentiality is pretty tight. It's unique and different than many other offices here on campus in the sense that we are not mandatory reporters. So we do not have an obligation to share information that may rise to level of discrimination, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct. Our only exception to confidentiality is an imminent risk of physical harm to the person who's seeking our services or to somebody else. We, of course, with express permission, can also intervene and share information, but that would be up to the visitor, which is what we call people who come to the ombuds. We call them visitors. It would be up to them to decide whether or not we have permission to do that. Third is the impartiality. So we're not here to take sides for anyone seeking our services or for the university, and we don't advocate. We don't advocate for individuals. What we can advocate for is fair process. So if during the course of our consultation process issues come up, we can discuss how we might go about addressing that. And then finally, I'll just say informal. So we are informal, which also makes us unique. We don't participate in any formal processes inside the university or external to the university, and we don't maintain any records of identifying information or the content of information for those using our services. And then, Georgie, I think you also asked the top 5 issues. So I know that you've got them on the slide, so thanks for sharing that. But the top 5 issues that our Ombuds Office saw last is the, 22-23 annual report, which are available on our website. I think Georgie's going to put that link in the chat. All of our annual reports are publicly available. But the top 5 issues was interpersonal communication, respect, leadership, abrasive conduct, and department climate. Those were the things that we saw when we looked at all constituent groups as a whole. So I hope that answers the question, Georgie.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Liz. And then for you, Jerry, we had a really interesting question come through from at registration. But I'm going to ask you 2 questions. So first, how would you position this office as one that prioritizes or not the reputation of the institution? And then second question, how do ombuds collaborate with other offices on campus?
Okay, well, thank you. First, with respect to partiality or the reputation of the institution, I think what is important for us to underscore is that due to our independence, the university's reputation is not our priority or part of our mission. When a person comes in to visit with us, what we're focused on primarily is that our visitor and what our visitors' concerns are, and how to help that person go forward. That said, sometimes a person will present information that does, in fact, bear on the reputation of the institution and also bears on their reputation. So we do consider reputational awareness when working with folks. Ideally, we help the university and individuals avoid reputational harm and help visitors report misconduct. But we do not, Georgie, can I ask you to put my video up?
Video is up. I think everyone can, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. We do help our visitors report misconduct, and inevitably, as a result of our informal and impartial services, we may mitigate risk to everyone involved. And you can find a list of ways organizational ombuds help individuals, and check out the International Ombuds Association Toolkit, which Georgie is going to place in the chat. Your second question was how we collaborate with other offices on campus. It's really important for us to build professional relationships across campus and collaborating with other campus units, which is essential to the Ombuds office. First of all, it helps us build trust and build credibility, which makes it much easier to surface and address issues when they arise. For example, when if an office like let's say FSAP or another unit has an individual visiting with them, and they listen to their problem and they think, well, you know, this is something that really the ombuds could be very helpful with. They feel comfortable recommending that individual to the ombuds office because they feel confident that they'll be receiving the best service that we can provide in addressing the issue, and that they think that the issue the person has is one that we're best suited or well suited to address. So so again, first, it helps us to build trust and credibility, which makes it easier to surface and address issues when they arise. When appropriate, we may also work in tandem with different departments to address issues effectively and provide comprehensive support. And we develop these relationships by offering presentations for other units on ombuds, as well as substantive areas related to conflict resolution and communication. We have regular meet and greets with campus leaders, with staff teams, student groups throughout the year. We attend meetings to introduce ourselves. We provide updates and report trends to the leadership without disclosing any identifying information. And that's really important. The four standards of practice that are on your screen are ones that we really do abide by, and confidentiality is extremely important to us. So whenever we're giving reports, we provide them in such ways that confidentiality is preserved. And finally, we serve on committees, although when we're serving on committees, we're not voting or decision-making on any substantive issue. So thank you, Georgie.
Thanks, Jerry. And then, so a question for you, Liz. How might someone go about setting up an appointment, either for themselves or for someone else?
Yeah, so thanks for that. And so when we were reviewing, as Georgie said, the questions and comments that came in during registration, the two processes that really seemed to stand out in people's mind was, how do they refer to us, and also how do we do mediations? So those are the two I'm going to focus on. Is that okay, Georgie? Okay, so the first one is just generally in regard to referrals, and it's really a two-way street. So as Jerry's going to probably just get to in a minute, we do a lot of referring out. So when we're working with visitors, oftentimes we're referring them to other resources or other people on campus that we know can help them address their issue or are the expert in whatever it is they're dealing with. So that's one piece of it. But I think the questions that came in were more about how do others refer to us? And a couple of things I'll say about that is, first and foremost, there's no issue that you can't refer to us, right? So we're a great starting point. If you're not sure how to help someone or what they might do or how they might move forward, you can certainly refer them to ombuds, and we'll have that conversation. We'll sit down for a 75-minute consult, ask questions, listen to what's going on, and help them figure out where they might go or how they might address something. Again, nothing too big, nothing too small. It can really be anything that's related to the university. The other big piece that I want to say is it's got to be voluntary. So what do I mean by that? The individual who is seeking help needs to be the one to initiate that conversation. So as you might imagine, sometimes we'll get calls from supervisors, administrators, faculty, or others on campus saying, hey, can you reach out to this person? They need help. They need a consultation. And the answer, unfortunately, is no. We don't initiate that communication, but you can certainly give them our information, and hopefully after today, you'll have a better idea of who we are and what we do, and refer them to us and have them reach out and make that first phone call. Similarly with mediations, we also get calls from HR, from supervisors, administrators saying, we've got these people, maybe these two people, they could really use a mediation would really be helpful for them. Can you mediate? And the answer is perhaps, it depends. And again, one of the potential participants would need to reach out to our office to schedule that initial consultation. And then we can kind of take it from there. So, and I'll go back to some examples for the referrals, but for mediation, basically they would reach out, they would schedule their initial consultation. After talking through the situation, if the individual and the ombuds believe mediation might be a good option, we'll discuss, how we're going to engage the other people or the other person, right? And if all participants voluntarily agree to participate, then we do, and Jerry's going to probably talk more about this, we'll do some individual prep conversations, we'll review the mediation process itself, we'll get clarity on, what does this person really want? Why do they want it? What are the discussion items they want to put on the table for facilitation, and generally prepare them to have those conversations, because we don't want them to come in unprepared for that. So we'll schedule, if everyone agrees, a 2-hour joint session to start, and sometimes there'll be subsequent sessions. But I want to go back to the referrals just for a minute, because I kind of got ahead of myself. Some of the questions that came in, were about, particularly around students. How would you refer students to our office? And again, I go back to, it can be any university issue, but I think Jerry would agree that with graduate students, we most commonly are referred to folks when they're experiencing issues with their advisor, and they want help on addressing a difficult situation or maybe a conversation that they need to have or want to have. For undergraduate students, it's a wide array of topics. I work with undergraduate students pretty regularly, and it's typically around things like retroactive withdrawal process, late drops, grade disputes, group dynamics if they're working on a group project, housing issues, ADA accommodations, honor code. They've been referred to honor code, and they want to know how to prepare, what to expect, what that process looks like. Maybe they're experiencing what they think is classroom misconduct, talking through that, difficulty communicating with a professor. difficulty working with an academic advisor. Those are all things we can help them think through and sort through and prepare for. So I'm just going to think about this. We do have, for the mediation process, there is a document on our website, and it looks like Georgie already put it in the chat, that anyone can look at any time. And it does talk about what we consider mediation. It is a very informal process, not as formal as maybe some of you may have experienced in other realms. But that's all available on our website. And again, determining whether to mediate, and I see Carol's question coming in, so we'll get to that. But determining whether to mediate or facilitate a conversation is really going to depend on assessing the nature of the conflict, talking to the people involved, and really deciding, is that the best method forward, or are there other suitable methods for resolving this situation? So Georgie, if you don't mind, I saw Carol's question pop in, so I'll just look at it real quick. So thanks, Carol. Carol says, do student interns from off campus qualify for help? Sure, absolutely. I mean, again, it's not so much the who, it depends on the what. So if the issues are regarding, landlord, I don't know what you mean by, I know we have an off-campus office, so sure, if it's related to the university, sure. If it's regarding like a real estate question or a landlord tenant, we would typically refer them actually to Bruce in your office for legal advice. So I don't know if that answers your question, Carol. Okay, but I will wait for Carol to respond to that. I will go ahead and turn it back over to Georgie.
Thank you. So now I have a question for Jerry. Jerry, I am wondering, can you please give us an overview of the services that are offered by ombuds?
Happy to. We received numerous requests to explain how we help in various situations, such as handling intimidating employees, navigating meetings with extroverts and introverts, supervisor-supervisee relations, keeping politics out of conversations, etc. And as you can imagine, all of these are fact specific, and what we'd like to, and we can't really go into any of those in any detail because they always depend on the facts of the situation. So let me briefly state that one service we provide is with conflict coaching. And this is a service aimed at empowering individuals to manage and receive conflicts independently by providing guidance and skills. So when a person comes in to visit with us to share what brings them to us, we try to help them sort out the issues that are involved, both immediate issues and underlying issues. And then after we get clarity on their issues, we sometimes help them think through what's most important, their interests in this issue, and then explore alternatives to achieving their interests. So it's a very systematic step-by-step procedure so that we're arriving at, well, what can I do next? In the case of conflict coaching, we help them develop strategies for having a difficult conversation that is productive. And it's important to understand that when we're giving conflict coaching, we're exploring alternatives, and the alternatives are ones that the visitor needs to be comfortable with, because the visitor owns the problem and the visitor owns the approach to the problem. We help you think through it, but at the end, our visitor really needs to embrace, this is what I want to do. Shuttle diplomacy is next, and that's a technique where ombuds office act as intermediaries between two parties, conveying messages and facilitating dialogue without direct interaction. Sometimes the parties have such distrust and/or fear that it's ill-advised to begin by bringing them together in the same room. So shuttle diplomacy has us going back and forth to the individuals and trying to express their interests and concerns to the other party and things that might work for either one of them, and exploring that until we can arrive at a good basis for moving forward. Sometimes shuttle diplomacy arrives at an agreement without say, face-to-face meetings. And sometimes going back and forth lays the groundwork for a productive mediation, face-to-face mediation. Mediation involves providing a safe space for facilitating a structured conversation between participants. The goal is to clear the air, promote mutual understanding, and work towards agreeable solutions. So when we mediate, our process is cautious to make certain we have a good idea of what each person sees as the main issues, their interests, and to form our own assessment of what we can accomplish. We must keep the parties safe, which means attention to power differentials, reasonable behavior, and an outcome that is going to make matters better and not worse. For that reason, mediation is voluntary by the parties involved, and also is our call as to whether we will mediate. If we don't think we can minimize power differentials, keep the parties safe, or help them achieve a good outcome, we are likely to decline to serve as a mediator. A group facilitation requires voluntary participation of everyone involved, typically also requires meeting before coming together as a group. These are often used to reset group expectations and establish group norms. And we also refer people to OED for this work. And finally, we offer workshops and lunch and learns for skill development. So that, in a nutshell, are the services that we provide. And Georgie, I see that we're at 12:27, so I think we want to go to questions.
Yeah, let's turn it all over to questions. So if anyone has to hop off now, we just want to say thank you quickly for coming. And we hope from today that you understand more about Ombuds as a resource for you and the campus community. I am going to put a link to our feedback survey now in the chat, just so that anyone who needs to leave now has it. And then we've also put up on the slide some information about how you can contact our office. So that there's our phone number, where we are, and also a QR code if you want to follow us on X or Twitter. We post a lot about our lunch and learns and other events there.